guys, it's Barry, and I want to address one of the questions that seems to be the most popular, and that is asking what it's like living somewhere, and other than where they're from. And while I appreciate the question, there's really no way to properly answer it other than one's own personal experience. Um, Let me put this in perspective. I could describe all I want to you about what is balance. The only way you're ever going to experience balance is if you're on a bicycle and you fall off and you cut your knee or cut your elbow. Then you're going to have the experience of balance. I could talk to you all day long about the scientific term of it, the equilibrium of the inner ear, and so on and so forth. But the only way you're going to ever experience balance is by the aforementioned. So it's a difficult question to answer. I do want to touch base with it a little further. Being that now we're well over 160 tours with well over 400 people from all over the world on our excursions, I want to bring up a point which I've learned over almost 5 years of introducing different ways of living and different ideas to people, out of the box thought. And that is, out of all the cultures that we've met, be it European, Asian, some parts of the Mediterranean, Australia, by far America has almost an addiction with wanting to experience the view from the top of the staircase, but yet they're still on the ground. They haven't even taken the first step to step one. And that really creates a lot of issues for the linear type of thought pattern, because no one will be able to answer these questions until you gradually climb the staircase. What I mean is the questions about how can I work, how do I meet friends, is it hard to get along, do they like Americans, do they not like Americans, which is a bunch of bullshit, because people don't really hate by nationality. Your mainstream media has taught you to believe that. It's more of an individual type of scenario. In other words, if you're a decent guy from wherever, Canada, America, it doesn't matter, people are going to like you. If you're a jerk, doesn't matter where you're from, people are not going to like you and they're not going to get along with you. But neither one has really much to do with where you're from. So the sooner you dismiss that, that's coming to you from a lot of people that have traveled and are very arrogant, or a lot of people that have not traveled and want to be your author. And be cautious in both scenarios. It's an individual thing. It's not so much by nation. Another thing, nobody's really jealous of your, quote, so-called freedom in America, because you basically don't have any. So you can believe in a noun all you want to, but you don't have any. And what happens when, and this is kind of a tricky question to answer, that's why but what happens when you try to view the view from the top of this staircase when you're still on the ground is it creates an incredible amount of stress, undue stress. And many times we've seen good folks that are looking for places to relocate, not necessarily here. Some are, but others, Colombia, Chile, Patagonia, Ecuador, they're all good places that are going to better weather the storm than many capitalist nations will. But what happens when somebody is trying to see the top view and they're still on the ground is it tends to create something that becomes, oh, I could never do this, it's just too much. Moving, immigration, yada, 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 yada. It just psychologically you put it in your mind, it becomes too much of a burden. Not understanding that every day millions of people move into different countries. Every single day, 7 days a week. You're taking what may be a very positive decision to better your life and certainly to withstand what may be coming up in the future, and you're throwing that idea away because of some subconscious idea that it's just too much to handle. And I had the privilege of meeting a great guy years ago named Wayne Dyer. Many of you would know that name. Not too long ago, he passed on, which is a shame. But he always had a saying that I really loved, and it says, "Your subconscious is dangerous, but only when your conscious attitude towards it becomes hopelessly false. At that point, your doubts and fears become your realities." And Leanne and I and Johnny and all the folks out here, we've witnessed that on so many occasions, countless occasions, of folks that had everything they needed to make a move to where they wanted to and back out just because fear took over. I caution you, don't let that happen to you, because any place you decide that you want to move with your family or by yourself, any place at all, always remember there's no right or wrong, there's only choices. And if you don't like your choice, make another choice. It's that simple. You have to look a little bit deeper also. You obviously wouldn't be looking to make a choice if something wasn't missing or something you didn't like where you presently are, or you'd never be looking in the first place to make a choice like that. So keep that in the back of your mind, and if nothing works right, even that's correct, because A, you can always move back to where you're from, which I don't think is the correct choice, or you wouldn't want to leave to begin with. B, you can always move on to somewhere else, and bing, that could be the right exact place for you, that you feel good. And C, and perhaps most of all, is the old heroin monkey will be on your back at 65 or 70, always questioning what would have happened if I did make that move. And that will never leave you. So by that third part alone, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong by making it, because you'll always have the answers that you were looking for. So I hope that part of the question makes sense. I also would like to continue a little further about everybody, including old Barry here. When you ask questions about what's important or what's bad, what's good, crime, meeting people, whatever the question or subject may be is irrelevant. What is clear and you need to understand, crystal clear, okay? Claro cristales, crystal clear, is no matter what anybody can ever tell you, it's only their personal experience. And what I mean by this is, I've said it before, but just for example, take two people from Montreal or New York and ask them about the crime, because that seems to be a popular question. Ask them about the crime in New York or Montreal. Two different people that have lived there for 25 years. One's never been held up, never had a problem, never had a break-in, never had anything at all. What do you think that person's going to tell you? They're going to tell you that the media blows this way out of proportion, way out of proportion. And a couple hours later, you bump into someone else that's been there 25 years or so, and they've been held up 4 times. They've been mugged twice. What do you think they're going to tell you? They're going to tell you the crime's way worse than they tell you. Way worse. Be super, super, super careful. The point you need to take out of those statements is both are only relaying their own personal experience. That doesn't necessarily mean the crime is good or bad. After living in 6 countries and leaving Western culture over 35 years ago, one thing I've learned is crime and stupidity are pretty close cousins, okay? And I see a lot of people making horrendous mistakes, and I'm sure no expert in anything, but they're making horrendous mistakes. I find the percentages well over 95%. The ones who cry in certain countries, I've been ripped off, or this deal I got taken advantage of, really try to do it the way it works in their own country. Their closed-minded, linear thought pattern does not allow them to seek out the proper legal counsel to do things according to how it's done in that nation. I've seen some of the classics are people buying land and they're using the seller's attorney. Well, no one ever bothered to tell them that the seller's attorney might be a second cousin, okay? Just little things like that. People looking for trouble. People getting involved with drugs, prostitution, and living the life of Riley only to complain and cry about how they've been taken advantage of, or how somebody came in later on and busted in their place and stole everything they had. You're putting yourself in that situation, and that is no different than what my subscribers inform me about what it's like in Europe, America, or Canada. If you're looking for that environment, you'll find it. And that's no different in this country or any other country I've ever lived in. So I really hate to see good folks that have what it takes. They have the financial means, and believe me, you don't need to be rich. Your dollars go so further in these countries than they do where you're currently living. And they throw away a wonderful idea of something that they've at least mentioned to us that they've wanted to for so long, and they just throw it away because the stress becomes insurmountable because they're trying to look at that view. They don't want to open up their mind and understand that I can't tell you what step, but let's say out of 15 steps, on step 3 might be the way that you discover how to make a living, where you were stressing and stressing and stressing about that from the ground. And on step 3, 2 or 3 ideas that you couldn't even begin to think of because you had no experience of the country you're thinking of. But all of a sudden, by going and by maybe renting first and getting your feet wet and meeting people, on step 3 you started to see something that, oh my God, this is awesome, and it's not being offered here yet. And these expats and locals they would love this idea. You ask around, nobody's doing it, and all of a sudden you found something on step 3 or 2, 4, whatever. It's irrelevant what step it is. The point I want to make clear is you couldn't have seen it from the ground. Okay, other aspects are language. Well, it's really funny because coming from Canada, it's mandatory for us to speak 2 languages before we can even graduate. Talk to almost anybody from Europe. Do you speak German? A little. Do you speak Italian? A little. Do you speak Spanish? A little. Do you speak English? A little. Talk to any American, and for the most part, and nothing's ever black or white. It's all various shades of gray, but I am saying the highest percentages of them. No. Do you want to learn anything? Any other language? Do you want? No. Many of the people we've even helped relocate here, especially the people in their 60s, they have no desire to learn Spanish. Well, does that even begin to make sense? How are you going to experience a culture, the people, communication, without wanting to learn the language? But yet many of these are the first people that demand any person that alienates and relocates in America, well, they damn well better learn to speak English. But yet, when the situation's reversed, there's that entitlement attitude again. So it's those people that do run into a lot of roadblocks. It's those people that depend on other people to speak for them, which is never a good position, at least in my thoughts, never a good position to put yourself into. Do you have to be fluent? No, absolutely not. Old Barry is not 100% fluent, but I certainly can carry on conversation and I can't carry on some business conversation. I'm weak on the sciences, like medical Spanish. I'm rather weak, but I can definitely hold my own, and my wife can even do better than I can. So I think it's mandatory that whatever country you choose to look at, that you at least speak some of the language, okay? And if you're open-minded and immerse yourself into the country and the people, you can't help but learn it. It's these narrow-minded people that only want to stay with the expats and want to live in their little gated community, or frequent only people of their own nation that speak English. They miss most of the beauty of the country, in any country. Not even really thinking this is the one, but that I'm referring to. I'm saying any country that holds true. So these are just some of the points you may want to consider if you've wanted to relocate for a long time. If you don't care for where your home nation is heading, um, these are some of the ideas that experience has taught us, and some of the more common questions that we face from people. And just remember that everything is an experience. Everything should be your personal experience. And honestly, I remember when I was younger, being in a country, not speaking much of the language, with less than $2,000 to my name. I made it, and I ain't nobody special. Okay, Leanne and I spend about 75 to 80% of our time with the locals in the mountains, the older folks. We love that. That's our environment. We're not saying it's right or wrong. We're just saying it's our environment. One of the best things that I can say for security is immersing yourself into the culture and becoming part of your little area. And give willingly, share. We do a lot of baking, and we have a fair amount of chickens that make the most wonderful eggs. Well, all through our neighborhood, we're always bringing banana bread over, and always bringing egg bread, or giving eggs to the folks, and they're always giving us back rice pudding and this and that. And my wife Leanne can't walk down the hill to the little colmado, the little mom and pop grocery place that's right out, I'd say about 300 yards from our house down the hill. And she can't get to the grocery store without stopping and talking to 3 or 4 of the old ladies every time she goes. And many people on tour joke around and say, "Hey, Barry, man, you need to run for mayor," because every second person's waving hello to us. And I see so many people living here for years, and nobody but another expat will say hi to them. Or I just don't see the logic in that. So immerse yourself in a culture that allows you to immerse into. And I hope this kind of helps a little bit. I'll be glad to answer any questions you guys want to send me by email. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm just going to tell it like it is, good, bad, great, or not so great. And always remember, there is no one place that's right for everybody. And you want to thank Source Above for that, or it'd be awful overpopulated. And a lot of what people tend to now, been educated to look at challenge or diversity, look at it as opportunity. Many of the folks that are here 2 years later that didn't speak any kind of local language and didn't know this, didn't know that, all of a sudden, if they take a quick trip back to visit parents or visit friends, they're amazed at how strong they feel. They do have a strong grasp of the language. They have taken the time to immerse themselves into the culture. And it's not until they go back home that they realize how much more of a broader knowledge they've obtained by living in the country of their choice. So hope this helps, and we'll keep on answering your questions as they come in. So until next time, this is Barry in the Art. Have a good one.